Right, guys, how are things? Just bear with us a minute. We're just getting connected to. We're on Instagram Live, Facebook Live, everywhere live. Yeah, this is our first. This is our first Facebook or Instagram Live, so be patient with us for just a second.
We've had a few people come in. We've had a few questions already in the last day or so. Yeah, we'll try to get through as many as possible. But if you do have any questions, let us know, and we'll do our best to answer them. We're going to try to keep this fairly short. We don't be here all night.
Yeah.
People have to get home.
I think Liverpool are playing at 8. I think a lot of lads want to watch that. So, look, for those of you who don't know, I'm Conor Clarke. I'm the sales director here for the auctioneer side of things. With Seán Kavanagh, our financial service manager. So, we actually got a lot more questions than we thought. And obviously, if you have any questions, you just stick them up below, and we'll go through as many as we can. So, listen, this is going to be a quick chat. We're going to go through what people wanted to ask Seán firstly, and then we'll hop in and out with a couple of questions from the auctioneering side of things. So thanks for sitting down, Seán.
No worries. Happy to be here. We, as Conor said, we've been trying to do so, looking to do this for a while. So it's great that January new start. Yeah, let's get in. Let's get it done. We also have a couple of tips there for people that have been asking, obviously on the property side of things and obviously on the mortgage side of things as well. What you should be doing, what can help you. Again, Conor's a long time doing this. I'm a long time in the industry. So any advice that we can give or any questions you have, again, that's what we're here for. So
we'll dive straight in. Right. So the first question, and it has come up many times over the last few days, are the banks lending?
Yes, they are. They are lending. It's a difficult time, and they are being conservative. They're looking at everything once or twice or a couple of times to make sure. There's a pandemic going on. People are level 5 lockdown. People are restricted. I passed 2 guarded checkpoints on my way here. People are restricted. People are limited in what hours they can work, etc. So they're looking at all those things, but they are lending. They are lending. Once you can show that your income is sustainable and it's you can manage the payment that you're asking for, and you're not going to not have a job in 3 to 6 months. They are looking at things. Yeah.
So look, if you are a first-time buyer or an upgrader, you've been unfortunately affected by COVID, you're on the PUP payment. Where do you go? What do you do?
Well, I suppose it depends on the industry that you're in. A lot of industries have been affected, but some more than others. Right. So that's a key thing, and banks are taking that view as well. So unfortunately, the hospitality industry, the travel industry have been very badly affected. I suppose what I'd be saying is that if this continues for another 3 to 6 months, do you really want to be taking on a mortgage and putting that level of debt over yourselves, where if it's a temporary thing, maybe just put aside as much savings as you can, maybe try wait it out. And unfortunately, obviously, when we get through this, vaccines are on the way, and hopefully we'll get through this fairly soon.
Hopefully, I think we could all do it a holiday. But from that PUP payment, and I'm just going to ask, as a normal person, layman's term, if you're on a PUP payment, can you get a mortgage? Do you have to wait until you're back on your normal payment or back to work? Or
if there's 2 people applying and one of the persons that's the applicants is on a PUP payment, generally they won't take any salary into consideration. Okay. So the other person would have to be able to demonstrate they can afford the mortgage on their own.
Okay.
So I suppose maybe not. Maybe not. It is possible in certain circumstances if someone's working part-time or what have you, but generally speaking, they won't take the salary into consideration, so you need to be kind of back working a couple of months before you get approval. But they will look at it again.
Yeah. And what we've seen, especially from the auctioneering side of things, is while absolutely a lot of people have been affected by COVID, a lot of people saved a lot of money. A lot of people have put applications in, and a lot of people have got mortgages in the last quarter of last year, and even coming into January here. How are we finding things with applications?
I think it was documented there in the press that November was a record month for applications approved coming in, and that's crazy considering the pandemic we've just come out of. And I think the reason for that is a lot of people, as you said, have managed to stay at home. They haven't been able to spend their money, so they've actually been probably a little bit more wise and a little bit more cautious, and they actually have more savings that puts them in maybe a stronger position. It's really just the income side of things, but it's again, this will pass. It's only a temporary thing. Last January this wasn't even around. It wasn't around. Didn't affect anybody. So we'll see it out. But the main thing is just to keep positive and stay positive on it.
And then rolling into another question is, I've saved a lot of money. I'm living home with Mum. How do I start my application?
come and talk to us. Speak to a broker, speak to a bank. I mean, we would always favour talking to a broker because you're giving yourself multiple options.
Why would you go to a broker over a bank?
Firstly, cost. I mean, I spoke to somebody yesterday and I think it was 120 or 200 euro the difference between what their own bank was quoting and what we could actually get for them. So by shopping around with several banks every month.
Jeepers.
I think I did a video on it yesterday just to show the difference in interest rates. One bank, the highest interest rate 4.5% versus 1.95.
That's the difference in a good holiday every year.
It's massive.
Yeah.
And over 25 years of a mortgage, you'd be talking 50, 60, 70 grand in interest alone.
Yeah.
So by shopping around, having someone that can shop around for you is invaluable. It's the biggest thing you're ever probably going to buy in your life.
Yeah.
So, spend 20 minutes with somebody to say, okay, well, here's more than one option. That's what we recommend. Obviously people have relationships with banks and that's fine, but at the end of the day you don't have to have a mortgage with the bank that you bank with. You can have a banking relationship with them and have your mortgage with somebody else. At the end of the day it's a direct debit at the end of the month.
And I find a lot of people that come to us from the auctioneering point of view, and you ask them about their mortgage or you're talking about the mortgage, sure, geez, I'm with Bank of Ireland all my life. I've just gone down to them, I know them.
And you know what? I think it's the fact that people assume that going to their own bank will get them the best deal. They have a better chance. That why would KBC or would someone else or would Ulster Bank?
Bank of Ireland have no loyalties. AIB, whoever it is, no loyalties.
I mean, they'd be quick enough to say no if they're not happy with you. But I suppose I think people just assume that it's their best chance. And I've seen people declined by their own bank but got approval elsewhere. Sometimes your bank knows too much about you and has too much information on you because they've had your bank account for years.
So just in terms of that question, what do I need to start my application? I know there's a hell of a lot in it, but just to keep it brief, we need pay slips.
You need evidence of your income, evidence of your savings, evidence that you can afford the loan you're asking for. So are you putting rent aside every month? Are you putting savings aside every month? Is it equal to what the mortgage is likely to cost you? They're the main things they look for. And obviously your job security, make sure that you're going to still have the same job in a year's time or anything like that. So pay slips, bank statements. The first thing the banks look at now is bank statements, how you're spending your money, what you're doing with the money. So we're encouraging people to come to us 3 to 6 months before they even apply for a loan, just to make sure that they're budgeting properly, and because that's the first thing the banks look for.
And that's rolling into a question here that we got here. Should I get approval before I start looking at houses?
Absolutely. It still boggles my mind why people go off and start looking at houses before they have approval, because what will happen is, and you've probably seen this a lot of times before, you'll find a house that you absolutely love and you'll need to move quickly, and someone else who has all the mortgage approval will get in ahead of you. Especially
now, stock levels from the auctioneering side of things are extremely low, so the competition out there is absolutely madness. We're not going to see huge amounts of stocks, especially until lockdown picks up. We see a lot of people talking about moving, but we're not seeing a lot of stock coming onto the market until the lockdown is lifted and until people start moving around a bit more. So to be in a position to move is so important. To have all your ducks in order. Because if not, someone's going to walk in that's ready and take that.
Well, we've already started to see that a little bit, where someone who might have agreed a deal with Conor or Ray or maybe any of the lads here maybe 3 months ago, and they could go ahead with their mortgage at that stage, maybe they can't now, and they have to pull out of the deal. So if you're in a position where you can step in at the last minute, the 11th hour, and say, well, I'll take it, I'm ready to go, I have my savings, I have my mortgage approval, just because it's not there now doesn't necessarily mean it's not going to be there in a week's time or 2 weeks' time. So we encourage people to get all your paperwork done. There's so many things you can't control in this, but there are 1 or 2 things that you do have control of, and that's your own bits and pieces. So get those done as early as possible, and then there's a lot of luck and getting the timing right in this as well.
Big time. I put up a house last week, and obviously unfortunately we can't view now until the 1st of February or maybe in around that kind of date. But with 50, 60, 70 inquiries on the home, if you're not in a position, if you haven't got your application in with Seán, if you haven't got your savings done, it's just, you've no chance. And we see so many people do it, and the nicest people in the world, or I go out to value a home and they'd ring me up about 3 months later and they say, I found a house where they should have had their own home up in the market, they should have approached the bank and put themselves in a position that now's their time to go.
Well, that's one question I actually had for Conor there, regards to, I mean, how, if you've 10 people come to look at a house, how do you decipher which one? I mean, and this is maybe a tip that to anyone who is potentially looking to contact you to make an offer, what are you looking for when someone comes in the door to see, have you everything sorted? I mean, what stands out to you at the end of the day?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, you're not going to take an offer off anyone who isn't mortgage approved. doesn't have their own property sale agreed or doesn't have a cash balance in the bank. So that's first and foremost. It's wasting your time, it's wasting the vendor's time, it's wasting their time, because it's just bidding up prices. What you're looking for, look, I'm not going to lie, we're looking for the best price, and that's just the way it is. Our job is to act for the vendor to achieve the best price for their home. Now sometimes the best price and the best offer or the best person to go with are slightly different, but the majority of the time it's definitely the best price, and that takes everything out of the equation. If you have 3 or 4 people who are in the same position, it is the best price, absolutely.
And that's obviously something a lot of first time buyers might not be aware of, that auctioneers, by definition, they're working on behalf of the seller. So Conor does his job well, he gets the best price for his customer, but I suppose Conor wants to sell the house, the customer wants to sell the house, so generally there's a deal to be done somewhere. Obviously, and then you need to make the number needs to make sense at the end of the day.
A house is worth what someone's willing to pay for it. I'll jump into actually 1 or 2 auctioneer questions from the Rakehook Auctioneers page that came in. I'll have a look here now. So just simple in terms of when I'm bidding on a property, what's the best way to go about it? I find when you're bidding on a property, the small bids, the €1,000 bids or the 500 bids, cause bidding more is more.
Okay.
If you go into a home, say for example, one we've actually said we just in Forest Hills there in Rathcoole, if you're going in and you're putting a €500 bid, it's very easy for someone to find €500 to go again. I'd always advise maybe 2,500 or even 5,000, a strong bid to try and frighten people off. People find €1,000, mammy, daddy, brothers, sisters, they'll go up and go up and go up again, and it's gas. I find the little bids will drive more than someone coming in with just €5,000 or €10,000 and the person below them not coming back at all.
That makes sense. I suppose on our side of things, what we normally recommend is that this is where you need to sit down at the beginning and get your budget together, because you need to know what you can go to, and I suppose it's very, very important from a budgeting point of view, and this is how people get themselves into debt, and this is how people take on debt that they can't afford. I suppose you need to establish what you can go to, and
when you're bet, you're bet.
Yeah, I mean,
you
have to establish this is the line, this is the number I walk away from, and I think that going forward and further and further, as I said, if you can't afford it at the outset, or if you think, listen, this is a max price, there's a lot to be said.
People often think, I know Ross gets an awful bad name for being heartless, but we're not heartless people. Like when you're dealing with couples the whole time, or dealing with families, and you've met them at 10 or 12 or 15 different viewings, and they're constantly being outbid, very difficult.
It's tough out there, guys. And again, as Conor said earlier on, it's probably the lack of supply of properties coming to the market, which we're going to see a little bit more of that this year. So you're not going to be standing in houses with other people, obviously, with COVID-19 at the moment, but obviously there are people still there in the background making bids and making offers.
You can see that here. Number 2, when's the best time to put my property on the market? It's supply and demand. At the minute there's a serious lack of supply and there's a phenomenal demand. And prices are really, really strong because of that. Like it's not rocket science. You're pricing something right, you're advertising it right, they're key. But the demand is huge and supply is short. You can see since even the turn of the year in Clondalk and Rathcoole, even Finglas, Glasnevin, Terranure, all of our kind of areas, Tala, there's been very little come on, but as you can see, there's a lot of mortgage group buyers, a lot of cash buyers, so it's gone at the time. I think just for the minute of odd days, the best time to put it up is the summer, or the best time to put it up is maybe September, or the COVID changed things, and you have to look at what your competition is around you. It's like anything, and at the minute it's a very, very good time because the supply is so low. I suppose that makes sense. I mean, if you've 3 people bidding on one house, or if you've 10 people bidding on one house, that just shows you all the people are going to drive each other's prices up. So if you have a house to sell, it's probably a good time to look at it. Another one here. How long? I'm just leading right into that. How long does it take to go sale agreed? At the minute, we're probably talking 4 to 6 weeks at a max for a property if priced right. A lot of properties are overpriced. If a property is on the market and it's not sale agreed in 4, 6, 8 weeks, especially going into the 8 or 10 weeks, there's a reason for it. A lot of the time it's overpriced by the agent. There could be something going on in the background, but if it's a good price property in a good area, you're talking 4 or 6 weeks. If it's on the market over 6, 7, 8 weeks, I'd be going in with a cheeky bid. I wouldn't be going in at the asking or above it. I'd be going in below, because there is a reason that property is sitting there, and as I always say, it's worth what anyone's willing to pay for it. So be very, very, and if it's a property you really, really like and you see it sitting there, wait and see what happens, and if there isn't loads of bids, if there isn't loads of viewings on it, there's a reason for it, and obviously the auctioneer or the agent is always going to be trying to push it and push it and push it, but there's a reason it hasn't gone. And generally a lot of the time is price. A lot of stuff is overpriced.
Just on that, something that I say to first time buyers the whole time is that when you're looking at a property, again, try not to get carried away. I know it's emotional, it's the first thing it might be your dream house or whatever, but I think you need to be sensible as well with regards to budgets and how you manage things. But at the same time, look at the property, and I mean, I suppose Conor may tell you the biggest thing that people contact him for about selling houses in 5 years from now is that maybe the house they bought didn't really suit them, and they didn't have a long-term plan. So, again, first-time buyers coming in and buying 1-bed, 2-bed places, that's fine. Nobody expects to have. Everyone starts somewhere. It's a starter home. A lot of people coming in expecting their mum and dad's house. Oh, I want to buy that. I mean, it took maybe your mum and dad 20, 30 years to get to that level. So,
and that day is gone. The day of very, very, very hard to see someone in the same house for 30, 40, 50 years now.
Yeah.
We all have too much itchy feet. My mother and father in the same house, whatever, 40 years at this stage, maybe more. Jeez, I don't know how long they're there, but they're as content as heck. You know, people aren't content anymore. We all want a little bit extra. We all want a little bit more, a little bit less, whatever it might be.
I think though, if you're looking at it, your house should be there. You should have a plan there for the next 4, 5, 6, maybe 10 years, and say you don't have to map your life out. But even if you don't have kids, the first thing I ask first time buyers, you've no children yet, but have you looked at schools in the area? Why? Well, you've no children now, but in 3 years' time you might have a 2-year-old, or in 4 years' time you might have twins. So have you looked in there? Because they, I want them to go to this school which has this catchment area, and that's one of the main reasons why people up and leave and have to pay stamp duty and legal fees and selling fees all again. So when you're looking at properties, it's an idea to maybe think, will this do us, not just for the moment, not just for the next 6 months or next year or two. Does it suit us long term as well, medium long term, 3, 5, 10 years?
Location is the biggest thing. We've seen so many clients sell up, go down to anywhere, whether it's Portlaoise or it's out Meath direction, and a lot of them come back because families here, babysitters are here, simple things like that, jobs are here. So location is a big thing. I always say hold out for location.
That's something that actually may change as well with COVID coming, because a lot of people have a little more flexibility that with regards to work. They don't have to be beside a train line or a bus service. They don't have to be in the office every day. So that may be something that may change in maybe the next 6 to 12 months if there's more flexibility from employers there. People can work and maybe go a little bit further outside cities and towns,
closer to the sea maybe. Going back to the question, so exemptions was one thing that a lot of people have asked for. Everyone always says January is
the year to be doing it. It's the time of month to be doing it. I mean, exemptions or central bank exceptions are that. I mean, the bank has to say no.
What are they in layman's terms?
The central bank brought in 2 main rules there a few years ago. You can't borrow more than 3.5 times your combined salary. That's it's called a loan to income rule. So the mortgage you're asking should be within 3.5 times your combined salary. That's your gross salary, and it's your guaranteed salary. So if you earn 10 grand bonuses or commissions, they probably won't take all of that, especially in the present climate where a lot of people, those bonuses aren't really showing as they were last year. So borrowing more than 3.5 times, it's possible to get an exception for that, so you can maybe borrow a little bit more than that. And the second exception is more for second time buyers who potentially can only borrow 80% of the mortgage value, so they have to have a 20% deposit. But an exception to that would be you'd be the same as a first time buyer, so you only have to put 10% down as well. So
what will they give you? 3.8, 3.9? Will someone give you a 4?
It depends on the bank, and this is why dealing with a broker, if you walk into your bank, one bank might only go to 4 times, another bank might go to 4.5 times, and it depends on your situation, how much savings you have, how much disposable income you have, how many kids, how many loans you have. There's added criteria in addition to normal criteria. If you're looking for an exception, there's a new set of rules you have to qualify for. So, and with each bank, all those rules are different. So as we said earlier on, speaking to a broker who has access to 3, 4, 5, 6 different banks can look around those options for you and just say, listen, that's what I do. We go away and say, I've spoken to them, this is what you qualify for, and you might ask the same question to 5 different banks and get 5 different answers.
Do brokers charge?
Some of them do, yeah.
Do you charge?
Some do. We try not to charge. We typically don't charge application fees. The only time we charge a fee is if it's a case that we do all the work and then someone doesn't go ahead, which is fair enough. No, we're typically paid by the bank, whatever bank you decide you want to go with, and all the banks that we deal with pay us the same thing. So we don't have to charge our customers, and we try not to. I mean, we can make and run a viable business without charging fees. It's
a phenomenal service. Simple things again, we're going back to applications, we're going back to deposits and stuff like that. There's a question here that will lead to both of us. Firstly, your first deposit, is depends on the value of the home. Generally, probably 5 or 7,500 to the auctioneer. This is fully refundable until you sign contracts. When do you pay your 10%, Sean? When do you pay the balance?
Usually when you sign contracts. Usually, for anyone who's not familiar, when you go through the booking process, or you go through the bidding process, the initial booking deposit, as Conor said, somewhere between 5 and 7,500, is to take the house off the market, so someone doesn't come in tomorrow and outbid you or look at it as well. That's subject to you signing contracts with your solicitor. So the person selling, their solicitor will draft all the terms and conditions of the sale, send it to your solicitor, and then typically within 3, 4, 5 weeks, your solicitor will
sign the contract. The paying 10% is such a huge thing. Until you have a contract signed, the deal isn't done.
Yeah,
and we see so much of it.
And come here, so the house isn't bought at that stage, so it's very, very important to have all your ducks in a row to make sure that all outstanding ties are tied up, so your valuations, your surveys, your insurances are all in place before you start going in, because once you've signed contracts, you've kind of technically legally bought the house essentially, so you need to have everything kind of ready to go around that time.
Another question that actually we got, and it was one of my friends who texted me earlier on. He's on a fixed rate until April this year. He's on 4.2%.
Yeah.
How does he change?
You can buy out the rate if you want to. If it's later this year, what you can do is you can find out how much it would cost to break that rate. Now, you might get a nasty surprise if you ring the bank. They might say, yeah, you're probably talking a couple of grand. I got a quote for somebody yesterday, and they were looking to break a 3-year fixed, and it was 0. Sorry, it was a 5-year fixed, and it was 0. They still have 4 years left on it. And another one I've seen as high as 3 or 4 grand.
Without putting you on the spot, this family paying 4.2. What will they save if they switched?
Well, depending on their loan to value,
you're talking €100 at least a month.
Yeah, at least. I mean, we probably get that down to close to 2%. So you're nearly halving your interest rate, and 2% over 20 years on a mortgage. You're probably talking anywhere between €100 and €200 per month. Tell your friend to give me a call, and I'd be happy to go through the information.
But the gas thing is, that's money that we just, especially the younger generation, we just pay bills. We don't look at bills. So like, it's only when you see around what's going on. I get bills and I just pay them. I don't think about what it is or where it's coming from. It's just your gas, electricity.
Exactly. People are mad to switch their electricity, their gas and other things, and can I save here, move from Sky to
I'm ringing,
or whatever else.
I'm ringing Sky every 3 months
to get a deal.
I'm at 150 now. I was at 120 2 months ago. So
the biggest thing you're going to find you're going to save money on is your mortgage. And that's been well documented over the while. So, and again, give us a call, drop us an email. This is what I'm paying at the moment. What can you do? Again, it's a free comparison. We'll tell you, listen, there's a lot of money to be saved here. We'll give you the facts and figures, and if you want to go ahead, it's up to yourself. We'll tell you exactly what you need to do.
Okay, simple one here. I'm getting married myself, please God, this year. COVID and Gillian. If Gillian arrives, but COVID gets out of the way as well. But I'm currently saving for my wedding. Will this affect my application?
It shouldn't. Saving for your wedding, as long as you can show the bank that you've capacity to save. So if you're putting maybe 500 quid aside for your wedding, that can be taken into consideration as part of, because obviously, hopefully, you only get married once. So you're not going to have several weddings. So the fact that you're doing that can be used as part of, it's called repayment capacity. It's you showing the bank that you can afford the mortgage there. So it can be used. It shouldn't affect you.
Perfect. A couple of other questions from that clear point of view. Sean or me could answer this. Should I have a solicitor assigned before going to the market? Absolutely. Getting deeds from banks is taking a long time. A lot of people working from home, and simply getting your things in order, whether it's your BEO, whether there's certs needed for any extension or modification needed done to the property. So it's like anything, it's getting yourself in line. With that, your solicitor's going to take 3-4 weeks to get deeds in. If you're only requesting them when you're going sale agreed, you're giving your buyer that opportunity to jump ship and go somewhere else. And that bidding war that you get the first time, please God, touch wood, and it goes up 10, 15, 20,000. If you went back to the market the second time, I see it the whole time, it doesn't go as high. Whether the property's slightly stale. So if you have everything, and I say this to all of our vendors, if you have everything in line the first time, things should move swiftly. Now, obviously selling a home mightn't always work that way, but requesting deeds and certs and BERs and management companies. The
importance of having a good solicitor as well, guys, is unbelievably important. I've seen people lose deals and lose properties as a result of the solicitor not being proactive enough, or not answering phone calls, or not going. The vendor solicitor, the seller solicitor just loses patience, loses interest, and they get on to Conor and give out the Conor as a result. So having a solicitor that's used to conveyancing, that's what it's called. A lot of solicitors, do conveyancing. A lot of solicitors specialise in conveyancing. The banks have changed a lot of the rules with regards to how things are done. So if your solicitor's not on the ball and is aware of what needs to be done, it can even cost you money, and the property that you're looking after could be gone. So the importance of having a good solicitor there. Normally I'd recommend go to a family member or a friend to recommend someone. Ask them one question, would you use them again? And work on that.
And just Ray's trying to throw us a few questions here. Hold on.
There's more questions coming in. Yeah, sorry, I think there is questions coming in. Sorry, we're not looking at the Instagram and the feed. So yeah,
here's one here. Are banks taking commission into account? This obviously applies to, I'm a salesman, so it applies to me and a lot of people. With applying for an application.
They are, yes. What level of commission? They won't take all of it. Typically, they'll take a percentage of your commission, and it depends on the industry you're in, what job you're doing, and I suppose they'll probably take a look at what you've earned in the last year or two, and they'll take an average typically. So I would say up to 50% will probably be considered. In some cases, 25%. So again, it's going to depend on which bank you're dealing with, and again the nature of the job. If it's very, very strong and it's mainly part of your job, and you can show a track record on it, but they don't want you relying on having to hit your sales targets to pay your mortgage. So they won't go all out, but they will take some of it into consideration. Okay, brilliant.
Here's one for the auctioneer side. When selling, do you put a little bit lower to get interest? So I presume Ray's writing is absolutely awful. Maybe his children have written this, I don't know. When selling, do you put a little bit lower in the ask price? Do you put a little bit lower in the ask price? It's a guide price, right? Our job or my job when we take a property on is to get people interested. So yeah, you want to get people in your door. You want to show them how nice the home is, and that will generally lead to what the market value is. You're going off comparables around, but you might have two Ford cars beside each other and two completely different. So if your neighbour's house sold for 310, doesn't mean that your house won't sell for 340 or 350. We've seen it. But from comparables around, it's just simply a guide price.
It's a guide price,
Advertising and marketing is key. Your video is the most important tool nowadays, and social media.
That's very interesting.
So if you're not on social media now, if your agent, whoever you're dealing with, is not boosting ads on social media, pushing your ad on social media, we all do the traditional My Home, Staffs, I think there's 15 or 16 websites, we all do the traditional brochures, everyone has their front of shop window. But social media is the way forward, videos are the way forward.
I remember Ray saying actually last year here that we actually got more hits on a website from Facebook than we actually did, I think, from one of the property websites. Because people were viewing more on Facebook on social media than the conventional way, which is crazy. That's how it's gone.
You can see it. I'm linked up to the auctioneer's Instagram page, and from 6 o'clock in the morning till mad hours at night, there's likes coming in, there's requests coming in, there's people on their phone constantly looking. So if your property isn't on social media, you're missing a huge trick, an absolute huge trick. And that's again leading back to your price. You know, if you want as many people interested as you can, when are viewing starting back? I don't know. Is the answer to that? Hopefully 1st February. We're always allowed view in level 5. It's as safe, if not safer, than going to the shop. It's one person in, one person out. You'd like to think the 1st of February.
That's a question I had actually. Are people bidding without physically standing in the house?
We've had a couple of sale agreeds this week. Personally, myself, I'd have to walk around it.
I'd have to smell it. I'd have to go and have a look.
It's like buying a car without kicking the tyre. You know, it's one of those where I'd have to go in and have a look around it. But there is people doing it. If you know the road, if your mum lives on the road, if you know the house,
that makes sense.
You know it more. If you're buying in an area you don't know, or a property or shape or size you don't know, then it's completely different. But at the minute, does it cost? Sorry, just going through this as well. Last one for you. Does it cost to switch your mortgage?
It does cost to switch your mortgage typically. You have to pay a solicitor to recall the deeds from the bank and then that. But a lot of banks are actually paying those costs for it. So, like for example, you can get 2% cash back, you can get a 3% cash back, and you can get switcher fees 2, 3, 5 grand. So typically it shouldn't cost. You do have an upfront charge to do it, but that will be reimbursed to you. So overall, you're actually probably better off with the money you got off, particularly if you're saving money. Look at the interest rate you're paying. If you're paying any more than 3% at the moment, go and talk to somebody. Because interest rates, you're paying 4.2% is crazy. It's crazy. If you're paying any more than 3%, go and speak to somebody. Speak to your own bank if they bring down their interest rate. They probably won't. Otherwise, come and talk to us. We'll offer you a free comparison, or go and speak to your own broker and have a chat. But there is an upfront cost, but it's reimbursed to you, so it shouldn't cost you any money overall.
Yeah. Right, so that's our first mortgage property Q&A. Sean is a Leeds and Barcelona fan. I'm a United and Real Madrid fan. So I think that was a bit like yin and yang. I think it worked very, very well. Any questions you have, or any questions we didn't answer, we will get back to you. We'll DM you, or we'll get in touch with everyone. And get in touch with us, whether it's mortgage or for a property point of view. From a property point of view, what I say is if you're thinking of selling, get in touch. We might have buyers. Tell us. If we don't know, we can't help you. If it's just for a bit of advice, if it's for a quick valuation, our phones are always on.
And guys, first time buyers, second time buyers, if you're looking in the area, go to the biggest selling agent in the area. I mean, if you're looking in Clondalkin, Rathcoole, make sure this man knows who you are. If you've money to spend and you're interested in something, Conor will know 2 or 3 weeks before property hits the websites what's coming online. So if you're interested in a particular road or a particular street, make sure he knows who you are. Get your details in, I suppose. A quick phone call, quick email to introduce yourself will probably go a long way. Come and talk to us. We're happy to help people with sitting down, budgeting 3 to 6 months before you want to do something, just to make sure you have the numbers correct.
The key thing with the mortgage thing, you have to get a mortgage. Most people do, because we have money.
Most people do, yeah.
You go to a bank, you're going to have to get all your documents together anyway. So you might as well give all your documents to one person. Doesn't cost you anything extra. It'll save you money, and it'll save the hassle of going around to all the banks.
We always have a plan B there as well. So I mean, obviously things can change. So you might be with your own bank, they approved you, but what if something changes in that bank? You have to restart the whole process again. When we're talking to 4, 5, 6 different banks, we have a plan B, plan C for you as well. So if there's a change in criteria, it's a case of moving you from here to here. So it's less of a hassle for you overall. So come and talk to us.
Yeah, brilliant. Look, we're going to leave it at that. We said we'd only do a half an hour. Any questions, get in touch, and thanks for everyone for
guys. Thanks everyone for tuning in. If there's anything that we have missed, feel free to give us drop us an email or give us a shout. We'll be happy to answer anything after that. And hopefully, if there's
hopefully it helped.
Hopefully it helped. And if people enjoy this or want to do, we're happy to do this again. No problem.
Thank you.
All right, thanks guys. Take care.